I was isolated, though I didn't know I was isolated. I just didn't know there was a whole community of bookkeepers out there. So even though I'd been in the industry for 2/3 of my life, it wasn't until I found this group on Facebook and I joined this group and I thought, wow, it's like 2,500 bookkeepers in this group. And I suddenly realised, wow, there's this whole community of bookkeepers out there that I was completely unaware of. And as I started to spend time with these bookkeepers online or going to meet up with them, I started to realise, hey, the way these clients are treating me is actually not right. And so I started to kind of try and stand up for myself, and obviously they didn't like that.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. I am your host, Michael Palmer, and today's show is going to be an enjoyable one. Our guest is located all the way in Melbourne, Australia. After bookkeeping for almost 20 years, she started her own bookkeeping business, Off the Hooke Bookkeeping, in 2014. Then in May 2017, she transitioned full-time into running amyhooke.com. That's Amy, Hooke, for those that are going to be Googling it, where she offers website design, marketing, consultancy, and training services for female bookkeepers, which I think is really exciting. Amy Hooke, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Michael. Thanks for inviting me tonight.
Yes, and I am excited to hear and share with our listener the backstory of how you came to be Amy Hooke. So why don't we start there and tell us a little bit about your career journey?
Okay, well, I guess probably the best place to start would be how I ended up being a bookkeeper in the first place. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So I was actually about 13 years old. I remember it very clearly, walking into the room, and I announced to my dad, "Dad, when I grow up, I want to be an accountant." And so obviously Dad was quite pleased about that, and he used to run his own business at the time, and he said to me, well, why don't you come into the office and do a little bit of work with my accountant and see if you actually enjoy it, because I loved, at school, my favourite subjects were accounting and computers. So he took me into the office, and I was taught to do bank reconciliations and enter checks and that kind of thing on MYOB. And I just really enjoyed it. I always loved being in the office. So that was kind of how it started way back then. And I guess over the years I've had, just a number of opportunities to actually, I guess initially I did a traineeship in bookkeeping, and then I ended up somehow totally unqualified, ended up in an accounting firm doing tax returns and preparing financial statements. And then my boss opened a bookkeeping business. So when I went back and started to do some study, I went into bookkeeping, and I just loved it so much. So I kind of, I guess I've stuck with it over the years, and it's always, I guess it's always been part of my life since a pretty young age.
Wow. And what had you start your own business?
I started in 2014. I started my business. I guess for a long time I did actually want to run my own business. Obviously, I saw my dad running his business, and I always thought that I would start one day, but I hadn't. I didn't really plan it at the time. I'd been previously. I'd done a lot of contracting, so I'd worked mostly through the same accountant for a number, maybe 12 years or something like that. He'd contract me out. And what I found was, so he ended up putting me in charge of his bookkeeping business. He wasn't really that interested in running the bookkeeping business at all, so he kind of left me in charge, but it was only to a certain extent. So he sort of said, make it your own business, you can do whatever you like, but kind of would never give the go-ahead to actually really do the things that I wanted to do. So I felt restricted, and I ended up resigning from there because I felt that I wanted I just felt that I wanted more out of my career, and I was kind of not able to express that. So I think it was 2014. So I took a break after I quit my job there. 2012, I went and did a lot of traveling, went overseas and did mission work and things like that. And I just trying to search, what do I want to do now? I thought I was actually quitting bookkeeping at the time because I was a bit discouraged. And I came back, and it was really the cloud technology that got me back in. I think when I left in 2012, nobody was trusting the cloud. And when I came back, everything was on the cloud. Everybody was doing online things. And I think also I kind of swapped from the PC onto a Mac, and I found out that everything, literally everything could be done on a cloud. So I wasn't restricted to having to be on a PC to use MYB anymore, but I could actually use Xero and go in the cloud. And I thought, oh, wow, this is actually quite fun. Maybe I'll start my own business. And it just kind of started from there.
Very interesting. You've got a very long history from just a young child getting immersed into the work right through to now working in the cloud. What was it like when you started your business?
I definitely have to laugh a little bit there because it was extremely difficult, actually, to be honest. When I first started, I think there was a number of things that I ran into that I just didn't expect. And I think probably one of the difficulties that I had was just some of the clients I dealt with. So I didn't know anything about engagement letters or anything like that. So I came into my business feeling very positive and very confident. And yeah, I actually ended up with some quite nasty clients, even what I would call them abusive clients, bullies, and, people just trying to take advantage, not wanting to pay their bills, not respecting the law and that kind of thing. And I found that really hard, and it was just me on my own. I was isolated, though I didn't know I was isolated. I just didn't know there was a whole community of bookkeepers out there. So even though I'd been in the industry for 2/3 of my life, it wasn't until I found this group on Facebook and I joined this group and I thought, wow, it's 2,500 bookkeepers in this group. And I suddenly realized, wow, there's this whole community of bookkeepers out there that I was completely unaware of. And as I started to spend time with these bookkeepers online or going to meet up with them, I started to realize, hey, the way these clients are treating me is actually not right. And so I started to kind of try and stand up for myself, and obviously they didn't like that. And so I just sort of got into this state where I was just very stressed. I didn't know, how to kind of respond to what was happening. So I would say initially in the beginning, it was a short period of excitement and then a lot of stress.
I would say those that are listening, there's going to be probably a lot that are feeling they've had a similar journey. It can be difficult, and especially if you don't have a community or a support group that can help you navigate through that. You feel alone.
Absolutely. And I think you need that mirror. You need your colleagues to be able to say, for example, I had clients accusing me, that I've done the work wrong and that they now don't want to pay for it. And I thought, I was sure it was right, but maybe it is wrong. I started questioning myself. And so to go to my colleagues and show them, kind of detail the situation, this is what's happening. And they say, oh, no, that what you've done is correct. And I thought, oh, okay. And then I spotted someone posted Debbie's E-Myth bookkeeper book in the group, and they referred to it as the Bookkeeper's Bible. And so I ordered a free copy of that, and it arrived at my house. And I just remember reading through Debbie's book, and I thought, I could see, wow, I'm on the road to making a lot of mistakes that I saw Debbie making in the book. And I thought, wow, I guess I sort of started to feel hopeful at that point to be able to, just know that other people had been through this before and that there was a way out and there was a way to, establish myself where I didn't have to, do business like that anymore. So that was a real blessing, actually, to find that. So
absolutely, it would be. from a mindset perspective, just in terms of how, and it's not just bookkeepers, it's every small business owner, when they're doing it alone, the mind is so powerful, right? If you think you can do something, you can. And if you think you can't do something, you're right. So when you're isolated, it can be very dangerous. And so, when we see very successful business people, it's because they worked with other people. They've always had other people contributing, helping them, being a soundboard, pushing them forward, a challenging, rising to a challenge, creating challenges and then rising to a challenge. And so it was probably very beneficial for you to find that community. And then, of course, finding the Pure Bookkeeping system and the eMyth Bookkeeper, just more resources, gives you confidence to take it further, to be bigger than what you'd be able to do on your own.
Absolutely. Yeah. I couldn't be doing what I'm doing now. I think I'd still be very stuck. I think when I was reflecting on what I was going to talk about on the podcast, I thought, even though that time was so difficult, it was actually, I think it really was a blessing in disguise, though, because I found what was happening was that these situations that were coming up, like I guess the pain that was causing me, it was actually pressing on some things inside of me that I hadn't actually, maybe things that I wasn't aware of, things from my past that I hadn't dealt with. So I think there were sort of three main things that stood out to me that challenging time taught me. And so the first thing was that when I started out, I had no idea who I was. I feel like I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know what I disliked. I didn't know what my values were. I'd never really heard about values. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know who I wanted to work with. I didn't know which direction I wanted to take. And then the second thing was that I didn't believe in myself. So I think probably firstly, I was in my early 30s and I felt that, I'm in my 30s. I haven't achieved any level of success. And, that's probably actually not true at all, but that's how I felt. And I didn't even believe that I deserved any level of success as well. So I think I had really low self-esteem. And so dealing with these situations helped to it really confronted me with that, like, hey, you're going to have to kind of, areas that I had to work on. And the third one was really that I had no idea how to stand up for myself. I feel like I was afraid all the time. I was anxious. I was always afraid of making mistakes. I felt like, maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. I'm going to get found out. And I think I really let people walk all over me. And, I thought if I speak up, I'm being aggressive. And so I would kind of bottle up how I was feeling and then, sort of save that up. And then I would get angry. And I just thought, I can't actually live like this, not just from a business sense, but from a personal sense. So I do think that if I hadn't have encountered those clients, then I'd still kind of have these blind spots. And I think for me, business has been like the ultimate character development program. You couldn't pay for that.
Absolutely. That's great. I love that. It really can be, as long as you're open and up for it, right? It sounds like you have such a positive context around it. And that really is the context to have, because it can be everything. It can be personal development. It can, reward you with a great future, but it's definitely a roller coaster ride and you have to be up for it. What were the factors that enabled you to make these discoveries and make these gains for yourself?
I think, as I came into that community, I guess, as I said, the people I was meeting were reflecting back to me what they saw in me. And, so Debbie's played a huge part in that when I joined Pure Bookkeeping. Debbie and also the mastermind group that I'm a part of, they were just so, encouraging. Like I've had, a lot of challenges in my past. I'm not in connection with my family at all. I don't have any family support. And so for me, the kind of Pure Bookkeeping community has been like a pseudo family for me. And so for the first time in my life, I found myself with people who were able to come along and say, hey, this is what I see in you. And I thought, whoa, I think I was just shocked, but it was like they just shine a light on what they saw. And I could see very clearly in that light that it was very different to what I saw of myself. And so I guess I saw Deb as someone who, she was very feisty when it came to sticking up for her bookkeepers. And I just thought I really, that kind of passion that she had for sticking up for bookkeepers, like it kind of made me, it was really like, I guess, blinding in a way. I was like, wow, like I really don't stand up for myself. So it was, I guess, in a way, it was the kindness of others that helped me to see, perhaps I wasn't being too kind to myself.
It's wonderful that you're able to experience that, and just the analogy of shining a light on what's great about you. Whereas, just I have this picture of a dark room with a light shining on something that's miraculous, and it's just a very empowering and inspirational thought, really. And I think, for the listener listening right now, it's like that's, what is it that you're thinking about? What is it that you see? What would happen if some people like who Amy's talking about were to shine a light? What would they be shining that light on? You may not even know, which I just think it's so exciting. Now that's me, right? Some other people might think it's daunting or whatever the case, but I can assure every listener that there is so many great things about you. In fact, I forget who said it, but you're always, actually it was Matt Church. It's a mentor of Peter Hooke, actually, and good friend and partner, Matt Church, Peter Hooke's mentor, Matt Church. Got to make sure I get all these names right. And Matt says, you are always 10 times better than you think you are. Even if you're great, you're still 10 times better than you think you are.
Wow.
Which I think is inspiring, right? It's just that it comes back to that what you've been sharing with us about is that we often have a limiting view of ourselves, and that's if we stay by ourselves, we just keep the limits on. When you surround ourselves with other wonderful people, then they're able to show us our greatness.
Yeah, when you're on your own, it's impossible to see that. And I mean, obviously, I have my husband, I live with my husband, and he's like super encouraging. Like he's encouraged me the whole way along, and he's always been there. But obviously hearing it from someone who's kind of outside of, your own kind of circle, and, some, I guess, people that you look up to and respect, and you hear them say these things and you just think, wow, like, oh, is that really me? Like, and then I guess initially you think, oh, they must be wrong. Like, and then, it takes a time. Like, I think for me, it's been 3 years now since I've been in the pure bookkeeping community, and it's, still a work in progress, obviously, but it's just been, it's really been life-changing for me.
That's wonderful. Well, it's when you said that, I can't tell you how many times I've heard people when I've given them compliments or we've been talking about business and showing them, hey, this is where your strengths are. I can't tell you how many times they've said, well, my partner always says that. Right? Yeah. It's like they're saying it, they see it, but because they're the partner, they're discounted for some reason.
Yeah, you think, oh, you're just saying that.
That's
you're
right.
Biased.
That's right. Yeah. So it's so super important. Okay, so you started your business. You went through somewhat of a transformational journey growing your business. What were the results that you produced?
I think marketing boot camp, and during that marketing boot camp, Deb actually said, if you have a room full of 50 bookkeepers and you ask them who likes marketing, only one of them will put their hand up. And I discovered during this process that I was the one that was putting their hand up.
That's awesome.
When she said it in the training, like, who likes marketing? I'm like, me. And then realizing, it's not very common. So for me, I was very good at marketing, and I'd say I firstly had a hurdle when it came to marketing. So I was very fearful of doing marketing, and I thought it was because I was afraid of rejection. But when I realized that I was afraid of being accepted, that's when it was a big breakthrough for me, because I thought I was afraid that clients would say no and turn me down, but actually I was afraid that clients would say yes, and that, potentially that I would end up working with difficult clients again, or that I wouldn't be able to handle it. It would be too stressful. So when I realized that, I had a huge breakthrough, and I started to kind of look back, yeah, I guess over my life and how I'd see myself when I was doing well and things like that. And I started to realize I really enjoy, probably I would say not so much marketing, but the sales process. I enjoy sitting with a client and talking to them about, what they need and, bringing them to understand what the bookkeeping service is all about. So I thought, yeah, I think I love selling bookkeeping more than I like doing bookkeeping, which is interesting because I'd done it for over 20 years. So I guess I just gradually transitioned. I developed my own website, and one of my colleagues saw my website and she contacted me and she said, could you make me a website? And then other bookkeepers started putting their hand up and saying, hey, can you make me a website too? And I guess over the last 12 months, I've transitioned out of bookkeeping into doing the websites full time. We have a graphic designer. I work from home and I have 3 staff working for me. We do graphic design and websites for bookkeepers. I do mentoring to kind of go along with that because I'm big about helping bookkeepers develop their brand, like work out like what are their values and develop their mission statement and things like that. So it's just been a bit of a transition. So I guess it's been evolving. So
it's very interesting. So what do you find the mistakes that people are making when they're marketing?
I don't know. I know we talk a lot about our comfort zone and that kind of thing. And I do believe that, we do get in this so-called comfort zone, which is, not necessarily comfortable and it's not helpful and that kind of thing. But I think there is a flip side to that. And I say to bookkeepers, like, think about you have to consider your own personality and your own personal giftings and how you're actually, how you're made. Like, I think for me, it was figuring out who I am, because there's so many different ways you can market your business and not every way is going to suit every person. So I think it's really important to explore your values and your personality and your relating style to work out what do I enjoy doing and what do I feel comfortable doing in the sphere of marketing. So for some people, they might enjoy networking. They might enjoy spending time face-to-face with people, whereas for me, I'm such a computer person. I'm an online person and I just love the online side of things. So, building up a Facebook group, working on the Facebook page, developing the website, that kind of thing. So I brought in most of my clients through my website, whereas other people really love the face-to-face side of stuff. So I think my big, tip for bookkeepers would be, kind of have a think about, out of all these different things you could be doing, which ones do you love to do? Because when you do what you love to do, people will pick up on that and, they'll be attracted to work with you because they'll see your confidence.
Absolutely. I think it's great. And I think it's an important point here in that you have been successful being able to attract clients through the website, but that's really an area that you have for whatever reason. You like it, you have a passion around it, you're good at it. And for someone to think that they'd be able to just go and duplicate that out of the gate, it's not, I know that that's not the case.
It's very skillful, actually. Yeah.
Yes, it's a ton of skill and it's constantly changing. I mean, maybe if we were, 10, 15 years ago, it would be easy to pick up and get some gains, but now with the way things are and the way search engines works and all of that, it's very difficult. But again, it's also difficult to do it any other way too. There are things to do, there's things not to do. And I think it's a great point to finding whatever area you think you might be comfortable most with is to find someone that's great at it to help you do it, to help you get it done right. And that's an investment. I always like to talk, business is about making investments and seeing returns on those investments. And so if you're not making any investments in your business, that's a very bad thing, a red flag, whether it's your time, whether it's your money, whatever the case may be, you've got to be making an investment in your business. You invested in the know-how, the education, the knowledge of how to actually go build a website and do the marketing and attract people online to your business, but it just didn't happen easy. It wasn't, you can't call that easy, right? It does sound easy, but you can't call it easy, right?
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. And now you're helping bookkeepers do this with your business. Now, did you transition fully out of Off the Hooke?
Off the Hooke.
Off the Hooke bookkeeping. Did you fully transition out of that now into Amy Hooke?
I did actually. So I finished up with all of my clients. I think I finished up with the last one in May. And I now have 23 clients in my new business. So I kind of, finished up with all my bookkeeping clients and just been, building up my client base, and they're all bookkeepers now. So I find the websites are a great way to connect with bookkeepers to be able to offer, the mentoring and coaching and, helping them with their branding, but helping, I guess, as well, touching into the personal sort of stuff that, that I explained earlier, like figuring out, like, is there something in your heart that you felt that you always wanted to do, and how can you express that through your business and that kind of thing. So I found that, the range of services that I offer kind of really all tie in together and can actually, even though it sounds like, websites, it can actually be quite personal if the person wants it to be. It's a real opportunity to go on a journey with these bookkeepers. So
yeah, it's fantastic. Now, I was reading your website, and your vision is to see a better world for women bookkeepers, where they build an asset with their business and not a job. Why is helping women so important to you?
That is a good question, and I hope I figure out the answer. I don't know why. I guess probably because some of the personal struggles that I've been through in my own life, but it just kind of eventuated that way. I didn't sort of set out to work with women. It was something that just it just naturally evolved that way. It turned out I admin a Facebook group, and that turned out to be a women's group. And I just found that as I went along, I just really enjoyed spending time with women and working with women. And I think I did a webinar for Pure Bookkeeping a while ago, and I've developed what I call the 8 bad client profiles. So I've come up with like 8 different lists of characteristics of types of clients that I've encountered in my business. And it's sort of a serious thing, but it's a bit of a lighthearted thing as well, to help us have a bit of a laugh, but also know when it's time to, move on from a client. And when I was going through that, I actually surveyed, because there's quite a lot. I mean, in Australia, a lot of bookkeepers are women. So maybe, I guess 80 or so %, maybe more. And when I surveyed these people on the webinar, I found that around 35 to 40% were encountering these types of clients. And I'm talking about, clients who are bullies and that kind of thing. And I don't know, there's just something in my heart that felt, maybe tied into what I've been through in my own past and the things that I've overcome. I just thought, I think I'd really love to be able to help women in my community to be able to overcome, the challenges that we have specifically as women. So, yeah.
Very cool. Well, I think it's great. And it is women make up a very large percentage, wherever you are in the world, you make up a very large percentage of the market. So it makes sense, but not to say, it is, I find it interesting that you've allowed yourself to go to working with specifically inside of that industry with women, because that's where you find your calling to do so.
Yes, that's right.
Which is great. Now, you also mentioned that you work with introverted female bookkeepers, and that makes some sense to me, because you've told us a little bit about, you find your comfort zone really around working online and doing these things because you are somewhat introverted yourself.
I am, yeah.
And so how do you help with...
It's funny. I don't know. This has been another interesting part of my journey. So I did maybe a couple of months ago, or maybe earlier, start of the year or something like that, I took a personality test. Now, I've done these free ones before, but I did an actual paid one, and it contains an educational program. And I discovered through that program, so I'm quite on the border of being an introvert and an extrovert. But when I did this test, it was quite interesting. The outcome, when I did it the first time, it said that I was introverted, but when I did it the second time, it said I was extroverted. And I thought to myself, I don't know, because I think sometimes I can be very confident, but I probably don't like to spend long periods of time socializing. So I think even though I said on my website I'm an introvert, I'm sort of like this really funny blend. And so, yeah, I don't know. I just thought, well,
Beth Bulow, who was in our one of our earlier episodes, if you go back and scroll down and click the next page a couple of times, you'll find Beth Bulow, and she has written a book about the introvert entrepreneur. And what she talks about is there's an ambivert, which not many people talk about. It's that you're a little bit of both, but you have a balance on, maybe one to one side, or you lean to one side or the other. But what I really liked what she was saying is that it's where you draw it's not that you can't do those things. You can't be extroverted. An introvert can still be extroverted, but it's where you draw your energy from. So likely you draw your energy from working on something by yourself and, in a safe space where, your comfort spot. That's where you draw energy and build up energy and feel refreshed after you've done that work. If you go out and you're networking or something that would be more extroverted, you're going to be able to do it and you may be very good at it, but yet it may be very draining and exhausting for you.
Yeah, and I think it was interesting as I went through that test, and I saw I could be both. I thought to myself, because I'd always called myself an introvert, and I thought to myself, what if I just decided that I was an extrovert? I wonder what my life would look like. And I started to imagine, and it was funny. I had this little bit of a transition, I guess in my own heart, where I thought, I don't know, I guess it gave me a boost of confidence knowing that, I do actually love, even though I love the technology stuff and everything, I do really enjoy connecting with people. And I don't know, I think as well, probably maybe the introversion, some of it had been a coping mechanism for me as well. So I thought, okay, this is a really interesting area. It's something that I'm still exploring for myself and, learning more and more about. But yeah, I just thought I'm open now to what I actually am, but I do know that I can be quite confident. And I know if you put me in a room full of bookkeepers, I probably appear more extroverted than the rest of the group. So so I'm open.
Beautiful. Well, I think, hearing your story and what we've been able to unlock today, it's not surprising you've gone through a transformation in your business and you've gone into a new business and you're finding your way. There's going to be new changes. And what I like about the conversation of this, introvert, extrovert is there's no right or wrong. And it's really just being free to be one or the other or to experiment with both and to know that, you're whoever you are, you're a great person in some, multiple ways, but there's a strength that you have. And it's just finding that strength and bringing that strength further and further to the world and to use it in ways that give you what you want in life. Amy, if you were working with a brand new bookkeeper that was just getting started, what would be your advice to them?
That is a very good question. I would probably recommend them, like myself, to get them to make sure that they are part of a community. So whatever that looks like for them, whether it's to join an online group or to join, we have a few bookkeeper networks or institutes here that have coffee catch-ups and meetings and things like that. So I'd definitely say to connect yourself with other bookkeepers to be able to have that support around you, because they're definitely going to need it as they go through the process, whichever direction it takes for them. So
beautiful. So surround themselves with a community of people
Don't
going.
do it by yourself.
Great. Well, this has been a really great conversation and I think a very inspiring one. And before we go, I'd love for you to share more about you, your services, and where people can go to learn about how to work with you or how to get in touch with you and have a conversation with you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, as you mentioned at the start, my website is amyhooke with an E on the end.com. So HOOKE. And on my website, you'll find there's a menu of services there, but I do offer website design. We do WordPress websites. My staff and I all work on those websites. We also do branded document templates. So that you can, get your documents organized, like your engagement letters, lodgements, that kind of thing, and send them out to collect electronic signatures. So we also set up those. We customize those templates for our clients. We do graphic design. We do other like logos, business cards, flyers, and also we do the printing of those things, and also the mentoring and training program. So I sell like one-off mentoring for people that just need a bit of a boost, need a little bit of support. And I also do ongoing 12-month mentoring programs as well. So we've got one starting up in September. We've got a few spots left on that. So that's amyhooke.com/training. And basically if you explore my website, you'll find lots of things there. There's a resources page where I share, different things that I've found helpful in my business. There's a link to my Facebook group in there. It is a female-only Australian-based group. And what's the other thing? And I do a monthly webinar as well where I'll have a guest on, similar to what you're doing with the podcast. I'll have a guest come and speak to us about various topics. So everything's all on my website. It's quite comprehensive. There's a few pages that aren't finished yet. I've been migrating, but most of it's done. So you'll find lots of good information there.
That's great. Well, it's been great having you. And of course, we'll have all the links in the show notes as well. You can likely get started with, if you're not already a member of the Successful Bookkeeper Facebook group, go and join that group, introduce yourself, get connected, and likely you'll be able to connect with Amy there. Yeah. Amy, it's been great having you on the show, and I really thank you for your time.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great. Bye.
Bye-bye.
See you later.
That wraps another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. To learn more about today's guest and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.